Today on Law Next, a conversation with Cornell Winston, president of the American Association of Law Libraries. Winston brings a unique perspective to law librarianship, having spent 45 years in libraries across diverse settings, from a hospital library where he started as a student worker, to Whittier Law School, to the law firm Munger, Tolles and Olson, and currently in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles. My interview with Winston comes just weeks before AALL's annual meeting in Portland, Oregon, which runs July 19th through 22nd with the theme Be Bold. It's a fitting theme for a profession that's undergone dramatic transformation, evolving from traditional book-focused roles to becoming essential gatekeepers and evaluators of legal technology and information. In our conversation, Winston and I discussed the evolving challenges facing law librarians, ranging from safeguarding disappearing government information to testing AI-driven legal research tools, and how their roles are evolving in response to those challenges. I'm your host, Bob Ambrogi, and this is Law Next, the podcast that features the innovators and entrepreneurs who are driving what's next in law. Before we get to any of that, please take a moment to hear from the sponsors, whose generosity makes this podcast possible. Every minute matters when you're running a law firm. That's why Bill for Time's comprehensive legal time tracking and billing software captures every billable moment with precision. Track time simultaneously across multiple matters, create polished invoices with customizable templates, and accelerate your cash flow with built-in payment processing that gets you paid up to 70% faster. Bill for Time's award-winning customer support team makes transition seamless with free data migration and personalized training. Turn administrative headaches into profitable hours at billfortime.com. That's Bill, the number 4, time.com. You didn't go to law school to waste time writing and responding to discovery requests. Never waste time on discovery again with BriefPoint. BriefPoint drafts your discovery responses and requests for documents within minutes of your first sign-in. BriefPoint is the most reliable discovery drafting solution on the market, and it works right out of the box. Get your first document drafted by going to briefpoint.ai and clicking Get Started. No credit card required. BriefPoint. Draft what matters, automate the rest. Now let's get to today's conversation. Cornell Winston, welcome to Law Next.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Looking forward to speaking to you. I know we're just, 7 or 8 weeks, not too far out from the AALL annual meeting in Portland, Oregon. So I'm sure you're keeping busy these days, getting ready for that and doing your day job. But are you looking forward to that?
I am so looking forward to Portland. It's going to be a great meeting. It's going to be a great meeting.
Well, I'm going to ask you more about it in a little bit. But first, I kind of want to start with you. I know that you have a career that spans some 36 years in law librarianship. I wonder if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Well, I tell you, most people come to this with purpose and direction. I came through the back door, through the woods. I really had planned to do something else. But, you said 36 years. Really, it's more like 45 in libraries. I started as a student worker when I was in college at a hospital library here in the Los Angeles area. And when I finished undergrad, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and so I got a job as a circulation clerk there. And anyway, it kind of morphed into several other things. I ended up getting a job as circulation clerk at Whittier Law School, which unfortunately is now closed. And from there, I went to Munger, Tolles and Olson, a law firm here in LA, and then to Orrick Herrington office here, and then finally to the U.S. Attorney. So it's been a journey, but it's been a great experience. Great experience.
Well, that's good. What was it you thought you were going to do before you ended up going down this road?
I thought I wanted to teach on the college level, and so I was going to school for that. But it just after getting my master's, I was like, okay, I think I am done. I had no more in me to do that next level. And then, quite frankly, I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. So the benefit of being young is that you can make choices that you can't make when you're married with children. So,
Tell me about it. So I've been to AALL meeting many times over the years. As a matter of fact, way back, when I first kind of started getting involved in writing about legal tech and other such things, in the early days of the internet, I launched a newsletter for lawyers about the internet, which was a print newsletter because there were no lawyers online in those days. And we actually debuted it at AALL conference that year was in Philadelphia, and we actually had like a booth and all that, and we were exhibitors there. So I go way back with that meeting. But I can't think of having spoken to any law librarians who work in a U.S. attorney's office, which is kind of interesting. But that seems like a really interesting position, and I'm wondering if there's anything kind of from your experience working in the government, working in the U.S. Attorney's Office that has helped you in your role as AALL president.
well, I tell you, unfortunately, there are few of us full-time librarians in the U.S. Attorney's Office. There's a large department at Main Justice there in D.C. One thing I'll say, working here that I bring to the job as president is that you must take your own career, make it as your own, and not depend on your employer uh, to help you grow and advance because they may not be focused on you. And so, I always say you have to take the initiative to grow, to learn from your colleagues, uh, to see how librarianship is changing, that you could change with it. Unfortunately, my predecessor never did that. And when I came here, I was like, no, I don't want to be that individual 20 years from now, still doing it how I did in 1980 when he came to the office. No, th- things are changing at such a rapid pace. You've got to take ownership over your career and your development. And, that's what I say to librarians that I talk to all the time.
Yeah. Makes me wonder, and I don't want to put you on the spot if it's something you can't talk about, but given the advent of AI-driven legal research and so many AI tools, is AI making its way into the legal research equation in the U.S. Attorney's Office?
Unfortunately, not yet. With many of our firewalls and restrictions, we're not be able to access some of those tools right now. I could see down the line, it's like a freight train. You're not going to stop it if it's going downhill. You're
Hmm.
going to either have to get out of the way or jump on it.
Yeah.
So I could see us embracing it, but
Yeah.
maybe just not right now.
Yeah. Caution is the rule of thumb for now, I guess, and then
Oh yes.
see where it goes. Again, with reference to the annual meeting that's coming up, the theme for this meeting is "Be Bold," and wondering what that means. What does boldness look like in the context of law libraries?
I think it means about speaking up about the value that we bring uh, to your organization. Uh, and really not just where we work, but to the legal profession. Uh, I think it also means that we're bold, that we make sure that we stand out so that we're not overlooked. Because sometimes I've had so many people say, "Oh, I wish I could just sit and read books all day," and I'm like, "No, I do not do that. I wish I did, but
Hmm.
no, you have to lead. You have to take charge. You have to show your expertise with your stakeholders. And I think that goes a long way to just not being in the background.
Makes sense, yeah. I've also several times interviewed presidents of the AALL in connection with the annual meetings or in connection with just their serving in office. And I feel like it's become almost a recurring refrain for me to say, this is a challenging time for law libraries. I feel like I've been saying that a lot over the course of the years because it is a job that has evolved significantly, probably most particularly over the last 10 years. So what do you see right now as what's kind of the shape of the profession? What are the challenges that the profession is facing?
Well, Bob, I will tell you, having been in libraries as long as I've had, I have heard the predictions of our demise for a long time. And, I'll say we're not dead yet. So, I think when we look at some of those challenges, I think number one, safeguarding government, especially government information, I think is key. As more content moves online, as opposed to in book form, preserving that integrity and accessibility is important. Unfortunately, we've seen in the last several months the removal of government information, and once it's gone, it's distressing to get a 404 sign when that information should be there. That link that you have, you assume that government link is hot, it's still active, but it isn't sometimes. Also, ensuring access to legal information is still a priority, whether it's in our county law libraries or even just getting that information. We have to make sure that yeah, information is out there, and if you don't know, you can't access, you can't act, you can't move on that, and that becomes very important.
Yeah, it seems to be that as you say, I think the role of law librarians has been evolving, and one of the ways it's been evolving, or at least my perception has been that one of the ways it's evolving is in creating what I've kind of talked about almost as a gatekeeper role for law librarians. The idea that as technology changes, as the media by which we get information evolve and change, it could be argued, I think, that law librarians are more important than they've ever been in helping translate all of that to the lawyers and other legal professionals they work with. What do you think of that?
That is 100% accurate. Because I always say, if the information is out there and you can access it, it's the same as it not being there for you. And librarians, how we catalog things, how we post our links, how we make sure things are accurate. All those things go a long way into making sure that the information we bring, the value we bring, is important. I see in times past that you could hide things, but nowadays I don't think you could hide that information anymore. You could make it a little more difficult to access. I know it's a challenge when you have these paywalls that something is there, but it's difficulty accessing, but it's there, and you need to find it. And librarians just help do that.
The other thing they help do, that we've seen a couple of examples lately, is put some of these products to the test to see to what extent they're meeting the claims that their developers are making. There was I know on my blog I wrote not too long ago about this Southern California Law Librarians Association, I think it's called, that did some benchmarking of some of the legal research, some of the AI-driven legal research tools, and found some very, very differing kinds of results there. Do you see that as a role, as appropriate role for law librarians, and do you think that we're going to be seeing more of that, to kind of benchmarking and testing products?
Oh yes, we have done that, continue to do that, because sometimes I think we know what to look for in legal research things. A vendor may give you the bells and whistles, but after the bells and whistles are gone, you need to get into the meat of what's there. And yeah, I know Scal did do that, that program of testing some of those things, because all AI products are not created equal. In the same way, all books are not created equal. There's some that are just better, than the others, and we don't want to spend our time on those things that are lacking. I know, talking to some of my colleagues, some of the things that they have access to, especially law firms, it's like, okay, one day we'll get it because it's a whole lot better than some of the things my other colleagues have said they have access to.
Yeah.
So there is a wide disparity in what's available and what's good.
You stepped into the role as president after last year's annual meeting, and it's 1 year term, right? So you'll be finishing up your term in July at this year's annual meeting. What's been your real focus? What have been your priorities during your year as president?
Well, this year it's been a difficult year. It's been a challenging year. I'm
glad you can smile when you say that.
That'll cry, and I don't want my makeup to run. But I think really one of my big focuses is just to make sure that AALL is staying viable and relevant. When we've looked at some of the programs that we offer, there is something going on at least every month, sometimes 2-3 times a month. Webinars or coffee chats are something that our members can access, that they can grow in their profession. As always, we have to make sure budget-wise that we're doing okay. That's really, and now, unfortunately, about how legal information and what's going on in the larger library environment has been a concern with some of the, recent happenings here in libraries. It's been a challenge, but, I think AALL has done our best to rise to those occasions. And as they say, more to come, more to come.
Yep. I read a profile of you that was published in the AALL Spectrum, interview with you, I guess, really, in which one of the things you mentioned is that you wanted to ensure that law librarians have a seat at the table. What did you mean by that? What table? For what purpose?
Well, I think, the standard line, if you don't have a seat on the table, you're probably on the menu. And I think what I meant by that is that we need to be a part of the conversation at its beginning stages, and not when decisions are made and we're expected to implement it, because sometimes our perspective is different. And I've had so many instances where decisions are made and I've had to step in and say, hold up, did you think of this? How come this isn't? And then we have to redo. I'll give you one instance, and it's kind of comical now. I was working in a library and we moved to another facility, and they had done everything. And for some reason, they decided to put the books from right to left instead of left to right. And, you look at it and it's like, who came up with this? And I said, if you would have involved us instead of, well, we have a consultant, I think too often we're seen as support rather than strategic partners. And, when I talk about having a seat at the table, no, we're a partner. We're a partner. We're not the afterthought. It means being included in those discussions and raise those issues sometimes that are uncomfortable for people to answer, but someone has got to raise them.
Probably a partner from one of those countries in which language sentences run from right to left or something. Not from an English speaking.
It
That's
happens.
funny. Yeah. But but when you're saying seat at the table, you're talking about within the broader context of the organizations that they're working with.
Right.
It's a law firm or government agencies such as you or whatever it might be, that they should have a seat at that table when the organization is making these kinds of decisions.
Correct.
I've been speaking with Cornell Winston, the president of the American Association of Law Libraries, about the evolving role of law librarians and why it is important for them to have a seat at the table when their organizations make strategic decisions. When we return, we'll talk about one of the ongoing challenges facing the AALL as an organization, that of balancing the diverse needs of librarians working in private firms, government agencies, and academic institutions. But first, please take this opportunity to learn about the sponsors who so generously support this podcast. Ready to reclaim your time? Bill for Time is the most trusted name in legal time tracking and billing software that helps firms spend less time on admin work and more time with clients. Bill for Time's intuitive software lets you track time anywhere, while its customizable billing system turns those hours into professional invoices in just minutes. With built-in payment processing, clients can pay instantly, improving your cash flow and eliminating collection headaches. Join the firms that have transformed their practice with the most trusted name in legal time tracking and billing software. Discover the difference at billfortime.com. That's Bill, the number 4, time.com. Voice recognition is great for quick texts or emails, but when accuracy matters, AI guesses. As you well know, in law, guessing isn't an option. With SpeakRight, real human transcriptionists deliver accurate, professionally formatted legal documents in about 3 hours, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The free mobile app provides instant access to trained legal secretaries, plus Clio integration for seamless filing. It's like carrying a full support staff on your phone. LawNext listeners, claim your $100 free credit right now at speakright.com/LawNext. Welcome back to Law Next. This is Bob Ambrogi, and I'm speaking with Cornell Winston, the president of the American Association of Law Libraries. A persistent challenge for the AALL as an organization has been balancing the needs of a diverse membership that is drawn from private law libraries, academic libraries, government libraries, and other types of organizations. As we return to our conversation, I ask Winston about the AALL's responsibility to balance those differing interests and how it does that. Let's get back to that conversation. I know that, one of the perhaps challenges, maybe not, maybe you might disagree with me on this, for the AALL over the years has been that it's composed of librarians from many different types of organizations, primarily from private law firms, from government agencies such as yourself, from academic settings, and you've been in both the law library and the government side of that, as I said, from academic settings. And I know that I have heard grumblings, and I think I've heard grumblings again fairly recently, that AALL doesn't necessarily do a good job of representing or serving all of those different interest groups. What do you say to that? And what do you think, what is the responsibility of the organization to kind of balance the interests of all those different groups?
I'm glad that we have 3,900 members, plus members, almost 4,000 now. And they are split. There's a good chunk that are private law librarians. I believe it's about 36%. Our academics are about 30%, and then government makes up 20%, and then there's a bit of others. Mm-hmm. And we try to offer something to everybody. And the good thing about it is that I think we do. In our spectrum, we highlight diverse voices. That's our local newsletter. But most of all, really, our special interest sections. Those are available. I mean, there's an academic one, there's a government one, there's a private one, there's a foreign one, there's one for Black librarians, there's government documents, there's quite a few. And I think that is something that if there is something that's a niche for you, you can go with like-minded individuals to help you grow, to help you support. And I think in our community, though, we always learn from one another. I think it would be a problem if we just tried to silo. And I know some, unfortunately, out of this year, some have said you're not doing enough for one particular group. Well, okay, so tell us more and help us solve this issue more than just you're not doing enough, because say for instance with the academics, I'm not in academia,
Hmm.
so I don't know what you need, but those in our association that are, those in those groups that are, you could tell us what you need, and things will be better.
Yeah, I sometimes am guilty of getting my news off of Facebook or wherever it's not fully well corroborated. But I did see there had been a discussion at some point on a Facebook law librarians thread about I think it was a group of academic law librarians who were talking about maybe forming their own organization or somehow separating. But so, I mean, do you feel that does that make sense for them to kind of have their own organization? Does it make more sense for them to kind of all be together in one group
Well,
or
I'm
both?
I'm I'm going to put my president hat on and
Yeah,
say, no, it's important for you to be a part,
yeah.
because splitting never helps. But also, if you feel that there is something that's not being addressed, yeah, I know some of the things that they've asked for. We are limited because of our status of what we can do, and I know
Mhm.
in these times, people are frustrated. I, as a librarian, get frustrated by some of the things that's going on. But I think the more important thing is to use our collective voice to move things forward. Those that may want to spill it away, I can say this 119 years past. We broke off from the American Library Association in 1906 because we thought they weren't meeting the needs of law librarians, even though I believe it was less than 40 individuals back then.
Mhm.
So it could be done, but also we could still work together because we are not adversaries. We are colleagues, and we have to function, even though we may have a different focus on certain things, but we have to focus as colleagues.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. And when we talked before about having a seat at the table within their organizations, I mean, those organizational structures also can differ in some
Hmm.
ways, but probably also ultimately all tackling some very similar issues, whether it's a private law library or a government law library or an academic law library. What about the opportunities for younger people who are looking at this profession, who have an interest in this profession? I mean, as you say, you kind of found your way into it almost a little bit by accident. But if there are those who are thinking about wanting to go into the profession of law librarian, I know I've known a number of lawyers who've then gone to library school, librarians have then gone to law school, or whichever, just gone straight into law librarianship. What are the opportunities like right now in this field for younger people coming up?
I think there's some great opportunities. There are so many jobs that are still open for individuals with a particular niche. And I know a lot of times when I talk to individuals and groups, especially outside of the law library realm, people have a misconception that, oh, well, you have to have a law degree. Well, I don't have a law degree. You don't have to have a law degree
Mhm.
to be a librarian. If you're working in a particular like academic setting, you may have to, but there are so many things now that don't require it. Our association is committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And that's just not something that we talk about. That's something that we actively support with our scholarships that we have, like the Minority Development Award that we give. Uh, Even in our chapter levels, those that have library schools in that area, those chapters reach out to library schools. And, we've been privileged to go to there's a GLAM, the General, I forget all these acronyms now, but it goes into library schools
Yeah.
uh, that you're able to talk to individuals about the job and what you do. I think we have a great mentorship program. So when you come in, you're not left alone. The one thing I appreciate more than anything is that when I started, especially when I started at my law firm, in my building were four other magnificent librarians that I always say they have forgotten more than I ever knew. But they were there as a resource when I was stumped, when I just needed some help. The librarian there, she had gone part-time. And so there were some days I was left alone. And they were not official mentors, but librarians are helpful people. And we help people to get into the profession. When you come to our meeting, I always tell individuals, if it's your first time, come to Cornell, the Conference of Newer Law Librarians, on Saturday. It will integrate you into AALL. It will team you up with like-minded people. I still have friends. My first AALL meeting was in 1992 in San Francisco, and I still have friends that I met then that we can encourage and support one another. So, the pipeline is there. I really appreciate because things are changing. So you may have a particular skill set that will just bring great value to your organization, and you tap into that. I know a lot of people now they shy away from the term librarian. We're knowledge managers. Mm-hmm. We're information professionals. It's I know the word librarian sometimes can be a little outdated for some because we just do a whole lot more than just sit and look at a book all day. No, we're encouraging that, and even in our annual meeting, our programming has things for entry level as well as advanced people. So you're not left alone. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important.
Well, I always tell people that your conference is one of the best legal tech conferences to go to, and I always get a surprised reaction when I tell people that because they're like, "Well, I think of Legal Week in New York or ABA Tech Show or something, but AALL." I mean, you don't understand. This is what law librarians do these days, and from in terms of both the panels at the conference and the vendors who are exhibiting at the conference, it's very much a strong legal tech conference. But I think to that point, I mean, you just talked about the fact that some in the profession are not comfortable with that title, perhaps. I do think there is a lot of within organizations, not within the law librarianship profession itself, but within the organizations they work with. I think there is a lot of misunderstanding or misconceptions about what exactly it is law librarians do these days. Because I think there are certainly some older people are still, you get this idea of a room full of books and somebody sitting behind a desk and that's what a librarian was. What is AALL doing to help those in the profession educate the broader public about exactly what they do these days and what their role is within their organizations?
I think the big thing that we really have to always focus on is looking outward. So many in our association, say for instance, our vice president, Jenny Silberger, she's the state law librarian for Hawaii. She actively works with judges to raise awareness about the pros and cons of using generative AI. And our immediate past president, June, she works for a law firm, and she leads a practice innovation team. Our incoming treasurer, I know she was at Georgia State, and they have a legal analytics and innovation lab that she started, and one of the other librarians there helped run that. And then he moved to another law school. So, you're kind of transferring what you learned there to another school. I think once we get past no, we're not the books anymore. We're not the hair in the bun, glasses down, telling everybody to shush. No, we are active. We're thought leaders. I know sometimes I've had, even just doing a research question nowadays, when I started in this field, I would get legal issues, or can you find this 10K or 10Q for company X? Now my questions that I get sometimes could be, locating information on expert witness, doing some medical research for one of the cases that we have here. I remember one time there was a accident involving a postal truck, and I had to find what was because they said it was a rainy street. What was the rain total for this particular day? And it's like, wait a minute, I don't remember where to find. I haven't used that, but as a librarian, you bring an expertise and a level of understanding that helps you, answer those questions and bring value to your stakeholders, to your patrons there. So, you know, I wish, people would sometimes, as they say, shadow you for some time and just to see what you do, because you realize,
Mhm.
oh, wait a minute, this is no, I receive very few books here anymore, but
Mhm.
I do more today than I have done in a long time. No, my day is full, and some days I go home. I go home mentally tired, and I didn't do manual labor that gets me physically tired, but it's like, oh man, this was really rough. Some of the
Yeah.
things I handled.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. We've talked a little bit about the annual meeting, which is coming up July 19th through 22nd in Portland, Oregon. I just wanted to hear from you a little bit about what are you most looking forward to there? What should other people be watching out for there? What are some of the highlights that you're planning?
Well, I'm going to look forward, number one, to our keynote by Roosevelt Weeks. He's the director of county law libraries for the Fort Bend uh, County in Texas. But previously, I met him and became acquainted with him when he was the library director at the Austin Public Library. And the challenges of being I'll say it this way, a librarian in a red state, in a blue city, with the limitations, it was a juggling act for him. But that library is noted for its innovation, for its creativity. Even its building is listed as a place that you have to visit when you're in Austin, of all places. So I think I'm looking forward to the keynote. Uh, as always, looking forward to seeing friends and colleagues, and really just the programming.
Hmm.
There are over 65, 67 programs that's there. And I know one time when I used to speak yearly to Cornell participants. And one of my pieces of advice was go to a program, go to at least one program outside of your library area. So if you're academic, go to a private law library event. If you're government, go to an academic. Do something that's different, because you'll find out, oh, there's just so much you could learn. And, you know, I'll tell you the truth. I connected with colleagues. So when they play Stump the Librarian, it's like, I know somebody that I met at AALL that could answer that question. So I'm looking forward to the conference. And I know some of my colleagues are looking forward to going to Powell Books. Oh,
Absolutely. And the donut, what's the donut place in Portland? You gotta go to get donuts.
voodoo,
Or
voodoo, voodoo donuts.
Right. Right. Okay. Good. Well, I will be there, and I know one of the things I always enjoy about the AALL programming is that when you go to some of the programs on legal tech topics such as AI or analytics or whatever else, they're not like you get at some other conferences which are almost kind of entry level, introductory, should we use AI or not? I mean, these are uh, deep discussions by people who are hands-on using these technologies and testing these technologies and pushing them to their limits and finding out what works and what doesn't. So I mean, some of the best legal tech related programs I've ever been to have been at this conference in past years. So I always look forward to going for that reason.
Yeah, I think they will be really good. On Saturday, we have two all-day workshops. One is going to focus on academics for academic librarians, and one for private law librarians. Different things with AI. But in the afternoon, they're going to come together for a joint session because, like I said, we learn from one another. We're not siloed. We come together. So, yeah, even though those programs, yeah, I want to talk to somebody who uses it, not somebody who has a theory about what it should do.
So I'm not sure if I understand this right. I think is the AALL currently working on a new strategic plan, or had it recently put out a new strategic plan, or I'm not sure what the status of that is. Is that, do I have that right? Or
Yes,
yeah,
yes. We have our strategic plan, our 2025 to 2028. We have a
yeah.
3-year plan. Uh, we'll be voting on it.
What are you focusing on? What are
Well, we're going to focus on really some of the same things that we're still focusing on: championing excellence, professional growth, the pipeline to the profession, diversity, equity, and inclusion, our advocacy piece. All those will still be a part of what we do. We're going to make sure that we reach out to a larger body, hopefully in these next 3 years. So we'll vote on this plan in July, and looking forward to having it implemented these next 3 years.
I know we're running down here with just a few minutes left to talk, but I always have to ask the future looking question. I mean, what do you see from where you sit, and you've been in this profession for a number of years now? Not to age you, because I've been in it probably longer than you have. But what do you see as really the future of the profession, looking as you look ahead, as you know, especially given all the technological changes we're seeing and the greater use of generative AI? Is it a bright future or a foggy future, or what are you seeing?
Well, I always say it's a bright future. It's a bright future. I'll say the challenges that we're going to face are still the core of our work, connecting people with trustworthy and accurate information. That remains vital. I cringe lately as I have seen lawyers use AI. I have nothing against using AI, but when you use it to write a brief. There's a hallucination that the other side or the judge will catch, and now you are horribly embarrassed. And I'm like, and I think that's where it comes in. There's information out there. Is it trustworthy? Is it accurate? The how we do things might change,
Mhm.
but the why we do it, we still want to give that accurate information. We need to be able to evaluate what we're getting. Uh, we need to be able to continue to lead. And as you said, some of these AI things or other tools that's there that we use, that we could give you a good review on how it works, what it doesn't have, how it could be changed. I think all those things still come to mind because I think we're the experts in this area.
Mhm.
It used to be, I always heard when the internet started, oh, the internet's going to put you out of a job. And it's like, well, as they say, oh, we'll just Google it. And it's like, okay, yeah. What's the line? Google may find you a million answers, but a librarian will find you the best one. And I still say we are in business to find the best one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been peppering you with questions. Anything else that you wanted to say or comment on before we wrap up here?
No, I appreciate this time. I appreciate you focusing on law librarians. I know I'm biased. I know I'm biased, but I think we do a wonderful job. We're needed. Our profession is important, and I think it's a bright future. I appreciate the trust the membership placed in me and electing me to this position, and I hope I have honored them by what I've done. So it's a great time. It's a great time, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I share your bias in favor of the profession, so we have that in common.
Well,
Well,
thank you.
thanks so much. I really appreciate talking to you, and I'll be there, so I'll look forward to seeing you in person in Portland in a few
Yes,
months.
yes. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to share your own thoughts or comments, please do so by messaging me on LinkedIn or other social media, or just email me directly, ambrogi@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. LawNext is a production of LawNext Media. I'm your host, Bob Ambrogi. I hope you'll join us again next time for another episode of Law Next.